Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Paranormal Versus. I'm your host, Michael, as always joined by E this season. So glad to have you with us. So you'll notice Kel is missing. She actually has a family emergency that she had to deal with. She said she may try to pop in. So if she does, she is welcome. If not, we're sending our heartfelt wishes to her for whatever she's going through to turn out to be all right and better. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to E to share if you have anything to share of what you're got going on.
I've just been staying busy with home life, nonstop, trying to do one project after the next. It's been wild. 4 boys keep you busy.
Very cool. And I, of course, have a road trip next month, so I will do my best to try and create the space so you guys can do episodes if you're going to do episodes next month. And I'll look forward to watching to see what you guys come up with next month. And
I'm sure
should be fun. And we are joined tonight by a truly amazing, awesome guest. I am so grateful that she was able to come on and join us. So I'm going to turn it over because neither E or I can do justice to her introduction. She is just so amazing. So I give you the one, the only, talented
Oh my God.
Dana Louise.
Oh my God. Thank you for that generous introduction. I appreciate it. I mean, it's great to be with you guys. I mean, we're all new to each other, so that's kind of fun, right? You know, kind of playing around.
It is.
But yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And, you know, buckle up, you guys, because I'm weird. And this world is weird. And I'm here to confirm that, right?
Yeah.
Weird is good. All of us are weird here.
Weird is good. And I think everybody's feeling it. I don't know, your audience, I'm sure we're all feeling it right now. The planets are doing some weird stuff too. I don't know if everybody's aware of the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, and then Saturn's winging its wings and all this kind of stuff. So legitimately, you know, like stay cool, stay chill, because there's stuff going on. Like you know, I think like there's a lot of normies, what I call normies or muggles. You know, they're not really aware of these things. They don't tune in or look into these things. It still affects them. And I think like the best way to describe it is when everybody's kind of offline and you're driving. And I don't know about you guys, but it gets harder and harder for me to drive because it's kind of like zombie apocalypse. Because everybody's, you know, basically offline a little bit, you know, they're in their subconscious. I don't even know if they know where they're driving. You know, like sometimes you're trying to go to a Wally World, but you start driving towards work or something. You know, it's just really weird. So I think that's kind of like my best litmus test is like how weird the world is or the muggles. And it's on the highway because I'm like, oh man, you guys, it's like zombie apocalypse. Like, I don't even know like what's going on here. But anyway, so hi, I'm Dana. I wrote a book. It's called, this is going to sound weird. It's my memoir. I didn't want to write it. I didn't want to write it, so I'm just gonna put that out there to begin with. But like I was telling you guys earlier, I was sitting there watching TV, and this was probably about 2019 or something. It was before COVID. And I'm sitting there, it's a Sunday afternoon. I'm just chilling and I'm watching Harry Potter. It's kind of a soothing thing to watch Harry Potter. You just turn out watching it for 20 million times. And I was getting salty about his story and the things that are going on in his life. And it was kind of like the voice was saying to me, oh, you're going to be salty and be judging Harry Potter. Cause I'm like, I don't know if I can swear on this. Cause I'm like, remember that, what was that with, where they were all cowboys and the one guy had like the coffee thing, and I don't know, there was the cowboy movie. I don't know.
You're not talking about
Cowboys and Aliens?
No, cowboys, and they were cowboys, they were like City Slickers. Oh, that's the name, City Slickers. And they were doing that, and they had the cow, and the one guy, the old curmudgeon-y guy, is like, I shit bigger than you. That was kind of my attitude towards Harry Potter. I'm like, Harry Potter, I shit bigger than you. Oh, and so then my little voice was like saying, oh, is that your attitude towards Harry Potter? Well, then, like, put your chips in, who are you then? So I'm like, oh, snap. That means I'm going to have to write a book. And I didn't want to write a book. But then I was thinking, because I'm of a particular age now, and my children are older or whatever, they're in their 30s. And I'm kind of like, they girlfriends, whatever, but I don't have any grandchildren or something. And my grandmother passed away kind of about my age. And I think she had the gift or whatever. But it's like, I wish I knew more about her. Mm-hmm. And I don't. And I never got to speak to her as an adult. So just very humbly from the beginning of this, it was like, I need to write these things down because they are pretty much epic. And most of it is witnessed, which was also kind of confusing to me throughout my life of like, God, I kept saying, God, why so many witnesses? And I didn't know, and I didn't understand because I didn't know what my path was going to be in the future, So I'm kind of like, your sons really don't give a, like they've heard some of your stories, but not all of your stories. And they wouldn't be able to eloquently say them. They're going to forget them. They're not their stories. So if you want to speak to your grandchildren, you should probably write this down. And so that's kind of how it started. But then as I was going through it, it was kind of like, well, because so many people have said to me throughout my life, like, no, you need to share this with other people and all these kinds of things. And so I was like, all right, so it's not so much just for my grandchildren, it's also for the rest of the world, because what has happened to me is so much. It's bigger than me. And like, I want to say, I'm just very reluctant about this. I just wanted to be a normal person. Okay. Like we all do, right? Truth be told, we don't want to be that one kid that's bullied or picked on or weird or something like that. And most of us kind of feel that way anyway, right? And so I just really tried to be normal, and especially because I knew I wasn't normal. And the reason being, if you read my book, I was interrupted, is the best way I could say it, by gray aliens when I was still in the crib. So I completely recall my first encounter with them and what happened. But I'm going to preface that in saying my first encounter that I recollect. So a lot of times, and there's so many people, I'm just going to say this, there's so many people in our culture that have probably, or in this on this planet, that have been visited by the aliens, any type of aliens, and most likely they don't remember. So to be fair, I think that's the norm. For whatever reason, I do remember. And then I do remember them visiting me often. And also, even in the moments when I didn't remember them visiting me, you should know that after they visited me, I would have really strange abilities, like energetic abilities and stuff like that. I became more like supernatural. And so then, I knew this when I was consciously aware of them visiting me, But then there were times where I didn't remember them visiting me, but I had the supernatural abilities. And then I would be like, oh, the Grace must have visited me last night because I have these abilities. And the abilities would last for about 2 or 3 days, and then they'd wane off. And so I grew up in Friendly, Minnesota. But while I was writing the book, a lot of things came forward, a lot of hidden or just forgotten memories and stuff like that would bubble up. For instance, I was probably 4 years old, and I walked across the street. There was a lake, and I was down by the lake with other kids. And I remembered being by the water, and then all of a sudden up the hill. And I got tagged that day, and a chip came out of it. Just kind of fast forward, one of my first chapter is when my neighbor witnessed a microchip coming out of the back of my neck. Now, I don't know if that microchip was implanted in me on this particular day or when that happened. I don't know. But I just remember being tagged, and I ran home because, it hurt, and looking at all that and stuff. And, it's a whole chapter. But while I was writing it, all of a sudden, the voice said, and whose house was that? Now this is across the street and about 5, 6 houses down the block. All of a sudden it occurred to me, oh my God, it was my dad's boss's house. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So I have a lot of receipts as a contactee, or I prefer to say abductee. I was on Connie Willis's Coast to Coast show, and she's like, are you an abductee or contactee? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, what? And then she told me what the difference is. And an abductee is when you're not taken willingly. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Sign me up for that one. But so I'll just I'm sorry, I'm kind of talking fast and giving you guys a lot of information, but I knew all these things. I knew about the aliens and everything like that. And my sister, she saw how different I was and all these things. But when I was 8 years old, I live in the Twin Cities for whatever, or I did. And I was pulled out of school one morning by my parents, and we drove down to the Rochester airport. And I'm going to show you this. Hopefully the camera can pick this up. And what it says, and I was told to hang on to this name tag when I was a little girl. I was 8 years old. It says presidential visit, Rochester, Minnesota, gives the date, special guest, Dana. And of course, I do not have my actual last name, and that's to protect my family. But I was given this name tag and then walked out to the tarmac. I'm a little girl, and here comes Air Force One. Out pops Pat and Richard Nixon. Pat walks up to me, hands me a long stem rose. And I don't know about any of you deep state people who are like into the Illuminati or the Masons or all that kind of stuff. I'm kind of thinking it's a symbol. And when I was writing the book, the voice said to me, you should look up the presidential diaries. And I'm like, presidential diaries? Like, I'm such a golden retriever. I'm like, what's a presidential diary? So I'm looking it up. And there it is. So there's some secretary that writes down every moment of the president's day. And I looked it up, and I even printed it up. And sure enough, there's the list of everybody who's on the flights of that day and all this kind of stuff. And there's like 33 people, Haldeman and all these kinds of, like all the press and everything like that. But Pat Nixon is not on. This is the actual manifest for the airlines. She's not on the manifest. And that's kind of a kerfluffle. That's kind of a big oversight, right? Because if the plane went down, nobody's going to be looking for her body. So why wasn't Pat listed on the official manifest? That's a legal thing. The president's diary and all these kinds of things. So that kind of spoke to me while I was writing the book about, what's going on here, people. And just kind of really fast forward, I self-published the book because I'm an Aries, so I'm kind of like today I didn't have time to find an agent or a publishing house because that could take years. Anyway, so it came out in April of, I think, 23. And then I actually got to do one of my first talks was MUFON. I think that was like October or November. And in February of 24, then I got a strange phone call from a mysterious man who said he had a file on my father. Okay. And I'm an energy healer. And so I'm going to start burping. And when I do, I'm sorry, I apologize, but that's me clearing energy, negative energies and stuff like that. So people who've watched other podcasts with me, they know it's either I'm swallowing a bunch of air, which I don't think so, because like I talk a lot even to my friends and I don't burp. So when I go into the past and I'm talking about these things, I'm clearing energy as an energy worker. So I'm just saying that. Anyway, so this guy said, hey, I got a file on your dad. And so I got this file. And he handed it to me, and it has proofs of my dad with like Hubert Humphrey, and that he was working on the supercomputer and all these kinds of things. And at my dad's funeral, a man came up to my sister and myself and said, yeah, I don't know why they fired your dad, because he transformed the supercomputer. And I looked at my sister and I'm like, see, because my dad said he quit. This guy was saying he got fired, and they were talking about transforming the supercomputer. But to me at the time at my dad's funeral, and this is in 2010, I'm like, okay, that was kind of like a firsthand person-to-person confirmation for me that I had been swapped as a child for alien technology. But I couldn't prove it. So here comes this file. And in the file are classified papers. And they start from 1960 to 2008. Just very randomly, my dad had numerous different jobs. But here's this file. And this man had this whole bologna sandwich of how he got the file and all this kind of stuff. And people laugh because they're like, well, didn't you say to him that you knew he was lying, that, you're probably an ex-CIA agent or working for the Alliance? I'm like, no, I'd love to hear the bologna story. I'm like, I'm going to let him lie as much as he wants. This is fantastic. I thought it was hilarious. So anyway, that was another receipt and proof to me of that. Everything that I thought and felt. And also in this file, the classified stuff is that my dad was talking to NASA and going around, and he was at Appleton, Wisconsin, which is really a creepy area, come to find out by other speakers on podcasts and stuff. And he was at Wright-Patterson, and I had no idea about Wright-Patterson. Just so you know, in me trying to just be a normal person, I really have stayed away from a lot of these genres and talks because people are like, oh, do you know Dr. So-and-so, or do you know this person or that? And I'm like, no, I mean, people can name drop to me all they want, but I really tried to cloister myself for two reasons. I wanted to be normal, but also there was a part of me that was like, if I started listening to other people's stories, my brain, this is human nature. You can be confused and start to take on other people's stories and stuff. And there was a part of me unconsciously that knew that I wanted to stay clean with my own story. But here comes this file, and it was like complete confirmation to me that shit was going down and this was real, and that what I knew, sensed, and felt in my bones and experienced was true, and true on a government level. And then I come out here and I start, my book and all these kinds of things. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this for yourselves, but I know other podcasters have experienced this. They kind of come after you. They kind of, or other experiencers or abductees or whatever you want to call us, whatever. They kind of start to play with you, the powers that be. They kind of shut you down, do all these things to you. They try to throw you off your track so that you feel insecure, this or that, or attacked, or whatever you want to call it. But just so your audience knows that's a real thing. That's a real thing of like, I'm sure anybody on your, listening, they felt probably shadow banded by Facebook or something like that. But these are the powers that be that do try to shut us down. And I take it as a badge of honor. I laugh. I think it's hilarious because, like, what are you going to do? Cry? And if you get into that pity party, they win. So I just try to rise above that and just kind of be like, yeah, this is the real deal. This shit's really happening. So, it's just more of a confirmation of, no matter, how much we're trying to speak truth, they're trying to stifle us, and we're not going to stop, which is the beautiful thing. So, and for me, that's a lot of why I want to meet people and, do bookstores and signings and all this kind of stuff, one-on-one, because I learn from other people. Like I said, I cloister myself. I don't know all the answers to all the strange things that have happened to me. I'm learning now because now I'm coming out of what I call the cosmic closet that I was hiding in. I'm kind of like,
I like that.
yeah, because it was, I didn't want to admit it. I just wanted to be a normal mom, live in suburbia, do all the things. But I knew that wasn't true because aliens, angels, vortexes, I don't know what you want to say, but things kept happening in my house. Ghosts. I mean, any supernatural, paranormal thing, I've seen it pretty much, and I didn't want to admit it. And I don't know if you guys did like Bigfoot stuff and all, like, I'm like, I even had Bigfoot story. I'm like, oh my God, and I don't want to, I just want to be normal. So, I don't know. That's kind of the background of who and how I am or my experiences. So for me now, it's like, being a particular age, it's like, okay, so you've had these experiences and these things, all I can speak to is my firsthand accounts. But what is it that other people can learn from that? So that's kind of my quest and my mission is to help other people know that these things are real, that this is more of a multiverse. It's more of, like, what you see on TV and a lot of movies. A lot of that is Hollywood disclosure. And we all think that's fantastical, but it's more true than false, the whole Matrix movie and all that kind of stuff, And then, so who are we in our divinity as far as AI coming up? Because I do believe when I wrote the book, I didn't understand this one entity that I met. It's a long story, but now I'm coming to the belief system of that. This entity that I met, and I'm going to say it was in the mercurial waters because it was at the edge of space because there was no stars or anything like that. I got dragged out to the edge of the universe. And I believe what I met there was an AI. I believe that AI they are AI cosmic beings. And I believe that AI is now coming towards our galaxy and to our planet to interact with us as humans. And so I'm very, and I'm sorry, I got this hair clip and I don't want to keep pushing my hair up higher and higher because I'm going to look like I'm from the 1600s. But anyway, so it's kind of bugging me. But anyway, so this whole AI thing, that's a real thing. It's a real being, and people need to understand and know that. And my whole mission is to help people stay human. Because we have this dysphoria that we have this, there are these certain futures that can happen, that can play out different lines of choices of futures. And I would prefer to choose a future where our children live on a green planet and we are wholly humans, that we are not so integrated by AI that we lose our humanity, because that's when it's game over, and that's when this particular AI, these entities, because it's kind of like, what's the dude that with the crystals, Thor, what the guy like in,
No, Thanos.
It basically is like that. If you want to look at AI like Thanos or the Gamorrean, that's legitimately what's happening. That's what's coming our way. So we need to be mindful and be very careful with the thoughts that we play with, because it's fun to watch a movie. It's fun to watch a movie, you know, like Mad Max and stuff like that. Like, I love that stuff because I'm like, oh yeah, I could find gasoline, you know, I could rip it up and everything like that. But then when I come back to reality, I'm like, no, I really like Doritos and I like toilet paper, and I don't really want to be running around in leather and, you know, looking for gasoline all day. That's really not fun. And I don't want my children or grandchildren to have that kind of a future. But the problem is that these are choices being put out into the universe, because that's how we manifest. It's through thought forms, right? That's how manifestation happens. Like, this mouse was somebody's thought form once upon a time, and then they made it happen. They made it into reality. AI can't create. They're not creators. The powers that be, they are not creators. That's why they have to siphon off of us for creativity. They use us. We are being used for that. So that's part of my mission, is like for us to remain whole, holy humans and have the divinity of this creativity. And so always stay in that flow of that, but be mindful of your thoughts, because they're hacking them and they're harvesting them. And I'm going to just say this really quick. I know I'm like talking. You know, like how we all have our phones and you're like, oh my God, I think Google was like listening to me. You think, oh, because I was talking to my friend about rakes. And the next thing you know, on Facebook was all these rakes and Google and all this kind of stuff. Right. Okay. And that was like so last year, because I guarantee you there's people out there in your audience, if you have a large audience and stuff like that, because it's a, you know, percentage, that there are many of you that only are thinking of something. Now, watch this. You're only thinking of something. You're not saying it out loud. Watch it come up on your phone. Watch it come up on Google. Watch it come up on Facebook and stuff like that. Shiver your timbers. But that's the degree that we're being hacked right now. And there's a lot of people out there that are posting about it. They're posting the patents, the government patents, about how this is possible. And this is the realm, and this is the thing. This is the holy war that we are fighting. It's about our mindsets and our energy levels, if that makes any sense. Okay, I'll take a break. Any questions?
You're fine. You're fine. I am encapsulated in everything you're saying.
Well, I'm going to go on a little bit more with the thought forms in that, because I've encountered aliens many times. I'm like, more times than I can count. I mean, you know, I've probably seen my aliens more than my grandparents. I mean, you know, hundreds of times. That being said, for me and my experiences, normally when they come into the room or I'm around them, it's a different frequency. The air shifts. I'm in a room. It's a different thing. And we speak telepathically. You know, I'm not using my mouth. You know, it's all telepathic. Okay. So fast forward to recent times, in that there's these drones and everything like that, and people are, you know, curious or whatever, and they're probably still out there, but nobody's even talking about it anymore, because who cares, right? Aliens could literally land and have a parade in New York, and everybody be on their phones and no one would really care. But for those of you that might care, I'm going to say, if something like that happens, because everybody's talking about disclosure. So let's just play with that thought for just a minute. If there is disclosure. Now, what my feeling is, we're not really going to have great aliens walking around and working at UPS. I mean, that would be awesome, but I don't think they're going to be doing that, because they need to be in a frequency, kind of like fish out of water, that, you know, they need their own environment. And they speak telepathically. And I do kind of think like the Tower of Babel, like everybody used to talk together. Yeah, it wasn't a light language, I believe, because people communicated telepathically, because we were way more connected to the planet Earth, all these kinds of things. And we didn't have devices to sit on all day or whatever. So we could communicate in that way. And also, you should know, like even Joe Rogan, had a woman on recently who speaks about kids with special needs, people who are nonverbal, and their parents will say, oh, we can communicate telepathically. That's what a lot of psychics do. That's what people do with their animals, all these kinds of things. So it's kind of like when you start to think about telepathic communication, it's like, oh, okay. You kind of get into that. What I'm trying to say is that step into that because if something really does happen, because I don't know, I don't want it to, but if it did, you're going to need to know how to step into that telepathic communication, because legitimately, if it is like, oh, we're all out here and it's a zombie apocalypse, and oh, I've got some Twinkies and I've got toilet paper and I've got gasoline. If you're collecting tools to use, this is a tool you're going to need to know, because if there were aliens in front of you, you're going to want to know, you're going to want to be able to hear what they're talking about in order to navigate your own life. And I don't know how else to present that. I literally kind of don't want to put that out there in the universe, because I feel like when you speak these things, they are spoken into the universe, and I'm trying to go against that. But there is a part of me that is speaking of like, it's kind of like, if I don't pack my bag with Band-Aids, I'm going to need the Band-Aids. But if I put the Band-Aids in my backpack, I won't need the Band-Aids. So it's kind of like, I feel like I'm getting a pass on this one. I'm going to talk about telepathic communication and that we all kind of need that toolbox. That's who and how we really, truly are. So if I speak it, then we probably won't need it. So I'm kind of like hoping that that's the case, like, we're not going to need it because they aren't going to come here. That the rest of us light workers, we're going to be mindful and really help to create a green Mother Earth and a beautiful place for many, many, many generations, all generations, to live on that planet. Because I'm like, why do we need to go to Mars? Why do we need to go to the moon? I mean, they're desolate. I'm like, how bad is it here? What is it that I don't know? I don't know. All right, I'm rambling. Stop
No,
me.
fine. You're fine.
Yeah. Actually, Kel has a question for you. She's wanted to know, what's your weirdest paranormal experience?
Okay. Well, if you want to talk about entities, is when they came and took my DNA and my husband's DNA one night. But to speak to witnesses, and so what I'm going to say is, like, I'm kind of a doof. I'm a golden retriever, and I say this in a loving way of like, I really don't know what's happened a lot to me, and I don't know the ramifications of it. Like I said, when I was little and I was being interrupted by the aliens and I had supernatural powers and they would kind of wane, I really haven't explored or been unable to explore everything about who and how I am. I know what I am, but I don't, know all about it. So on one weekend, to try to make this really quick, I was with a girlfriend. This is probably in the mid 1990s, and we were at an energy healing kind of seminar to learn to do healing modalities. And there's probably 100 people in the room. And it was the last day of the conference. It was like a Sunday, and the teacher leading it. Okay, so here comes the clearing again. He stood up there, and it's a big room, big conference room in a hotel. And he just, without announcement, there's all these people, lines of people, chairs and chairs. And he goes to the first person to his left. And he's like, look into my eye. And he's like, you see it? You see it? And he went around the room, and it was probably about the second or third person. My girlfriend saw it right away. She's like, oh my God, did you see that? I'm like, no, what? Because I'm like, I'm a doof. And she's like, oh my God, he's shape-shifting. He's shape-shifting. I'm like, what? So I'm looking and all this kind of stuff. And he goes around, he does, all the participants. But now he's in the back row, and he gets to me. And he's up there, and legitimately, I can't really see him because he's more than 30 feet away from me. I mean, it's a big conference room, so I can't really see his eye because I'm kind of like, I need glasses and stuff like that. I've had LASIK. So he's just kind of really a blob, but I'm pretending, you know, to look at him and his eye and stuff like that. He's like, look at my eye. And he is shapeshifting. But for most of the people, when he was with others, it was like what I term as a holographic overlay. So you could see the man, but then there was a holographic overlay of another person, different individuals and stuff like that. And with each participant, you could see him shapeshift maybe once or maybe twice or something like that, holographic overlay. But when it came to me, I saw him and he became solid. So now here he is and he's solid. And at first it was kind of like, I'll just say like he's a Civil War soldier. And so it's kind of like he would be like this, but he would be solid. So you would see the whole uniform. He'd be carrying a gun or something like that. And then it would go away. And then he would like transform into another person. And they would be like, he would shine or radiate that figure, that person. That would go for, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe 20 seconds. Because 20 seconds, if you really count it out, it's a lot. And then that will go away. But what ended up happening is then the whole room fell away and it became like Star Trek hologram, like the holodeck. So I'm going to tell you again, Hollywood discloses a lot of truth. So yes, it was a holodeck and all the walls and the floor fell away for myself and all the participants. And so it was, so when he would, if he, let's go back to Civil War soldier, now we're in the battlefield, all of us, and we can see it. When he was this old type person, we're in some log cabin. The whole room, there's no event center, there's no hotel anymore. We're in a cabin. We're in whatever he was shapeshifting into. And this went on for quite a while. And I really tried to hang with it as long as I could. And I found myself actually literally crouching on my chair, kind of like a gargoyle, going like holding the energy with him, holding it, you know, because this was fascinating. I didn't know what was going on. It was fascinating. And then I couldn't take it anymore. I broke off. I just kind of like, you know, sat back down on the chair and looked at my girlfriend, who's my best friend. And even she's looking at me like I just shot her dog. Like the whole conference room, like, okay, so I'm Norwegian, so it's okay. I'm going to pick on them. But it's kind of like going to like your Norwegian, like Norwegian festival, and they're all like staring at you with that look. They were all staring at me like I shot their dog or something like that. And you know, like I didn't know, but I said to my girlfriend, like, so could you all see that? And she's like, yeah. Okay. Fast forward, the guy was mad at me that I did that. And I talked to him. I called him up like 10 years later on the phone because he didn't want to talk to me. And he said that spirit said to him he had to allow it. I was just talking to a friend yesterday. She felt that I was healing him. You know, this whole shape-shifting thing, you know, whatever. Anyway, but this was a thing, a talent. I don't know if I'd want to call it that, but this event happened and it was witnessed by at least 100 people. And for me, that's one of the weirdest things that I could say that I hope, and in my book and for many of the things that have happened to me, I ask people to come forward. I'm just like, hey, if you heard this story of this happening, that was me. And please contact me because I would love to hear back from some of the witnesses and stuff like that. So I've yet to hear back from one of these people. Of course, the host or the guy that was teaching would not share with me other people's emails, you know, because he was pissed. And yeah, so there's no way for me to connect with them. But I know they're in the Twin Cities area, and at least my girlfriend was there, and she saw it too. So for me, that's one of the most social things that has been witnessed of how weird I am or some weird stuff. I've levitated people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of weird stuff. But I don't think I'm not sure if this is like my gift that was a hereditary thing or just my interactions with different alien species. But what I'm going to say to you is that I don't believe that makes me a complete unicorn. I believe that this is innately things and energies and who and how we are as humans. If you go back into history and stuff like that of what humans could do and all these kinds of things, I think that's our divine right. I think what has happened is that they've tried to make this an enslavement system, siphon our souls for energy and all that kind of stuff, and harvest us and use that and keep us away from being creators, because that is our blessing, that is our divinity, and that is what makes us whole holy humans. And so we're being shut down from that. So that is also part of my mission, is to say, hey, your prayers matter. You can manifest. You need to participate in your life and in this matrix, if you want to call it, of your life, and take responsibility and try to create or co-create as co-creator. So that's kind of where I come from on that. I just don't think I'm like whatever. It's like I think this is innately in all of us. It's untapped and we don't really realize our full potential. I don't realize my full potential in any way, shape, or form. But whatever the strange things that have happened to me, I think, so be to everyone, you know. And I think that that could be an amazing future as we evolve as a species, because I think we're not done evolving. We're going to continue to evolve, and we need to step into our power, you know. Otherwise, we're subject to slavery.
Well, I do have a question for you then. If you think everybody has these abilities to be able to tap into, what would be your advice to allow people to possibly tap into it?
Well, I'm going to tell you what. From the sacred readings that I started with, it's literally play, and be playful and use your imagination, image emotion. Because there's like thought, word, and deed. So it's that thought, and then you speak it into manifesting, and then it's a deed. So it's like when you start to play, um, the magic comes back. And that's why children believe this world is magical, because they're kind of right. They just came from heaven, didn't they? Didn't their souls just come from Creator? They get it intuitively. They know about it. And then it's basically beaten out of them in one way or another, or the system takes it away from them. But I think if we get back into that whole playfulness and imagination, and just, I know a lot of people find the word magic triggering, but synchronicities even, because my husband's a muggle. He's a normie. And God bless him. And he didn't know, because I didn't say to him like, oh, hey, on our first date, guess what? I've been visited by aliens and ghosts and Bigfoot and whatever, didn't say all these things. But I did point out to him, because a lot of times when I talk or he talks now, if the TV is on or the radio is on, it will say the same word. So I might say blah, blah, blah word, and then the TV will say word. And then I go, oh, I'll say to my husband, I'm like, oh, and he's like, oh, that's just coinky dink or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, but think about it. You and I are having a conversation separate from the television show, and the television show just said the word that we just said, and it's a peculiar word. It's random. Like, that's too much of a coincidence. And he's come along to realize that this does happen, the synchronicity. And for me, that shows that you're in the flow when these things start to happen. And it might, for a lot of us, it's kind of like going to the Olympics or something like that. It's like having, like building your muscles. You might not be very strong or good at playing the piano at first, but if you practice or you're more aware of it and you bring it in and all this kind of stuff, you get better and better, and it keeps opening up more and more. So if there is another world, another dimension that lives on top of us at the same time, and they're trying to communicate with us, this is the beginning. This is the crack of opening up those doorways, because then you're acknowledging that there's something else happening. Because it legitimately is really, really weird when you say the word popsicle and then suddenly the TV says popsicle or the radio says popsicle. It's just way too random. So if you start to notice these things, at least acknowledge them. And the more you acknowledge them, the more they'll happen. And that's when, like I said, that's when you start to flourish, and then you're in the flow. And that's when you start to go like, hey, there's something going on here. There's more to it than just being 3D, because this world, this plane, this realm is frequency. You know, this mouse isn't exactly solid. If you got right down to it and you could look at it with different eyes, you would see that it's just a bunch of atoms spinning around. They're spinning so fast in a certain form that this looks solid, but that's not true. It's not really solid. You know, that's an illusion. So when you start to work with these illusions, the whole rest of the world opens up. And I do call us earthworms, because, you know, like in the beginning of my book, I'm like, I'm sitting here in a room, in a house, but below me are all kinds of like bugs in the dirt, right? There's worms, there's whatever, creepy crawlies in the dirt. Some of them have seen the daylight, some of them have not. And that's their world. And they're super saturated in it. And they have no idea about our world. These little water bugs or whatever don't know about Doritos. They don't know about toilet paper. They don't know about airplanes. They don't know about stars or the moon or you know, a lot of these things. But their world is true. Their world is happening. But they are benighted to the rest of the different realms that live on top of them. So for me, as a child, having grown up with ETs and all this kind of stuff, I really took that to heart in thinking that, could there not be other realms that live on top of us in our 3D realm at the same time? It's just that we don't see it or understand it because we're in a different frequency, and or that our eyesight and our hearing is less than 1%. You know, like that is so incredibly small. So what is it that's going on outside of our visual capability or our hearing? You know, this we really have blinders on. And when you start to say, okay, maybe for a minute, like, I'm not all that smart, I don't know. Because like my mom was like, whatever you think God is, it's just way more exponentially bigger than that. So I kind of took that to heart, of that I'm living in this 3D realm, but I'm feeling, sensing, and knowing that there's something else going on here. And if you just open up your mind and you start to play with it, well, number one, it's fun. And number two, a different kind of magic is also in kindness to others and having fun and being playful with that. And such as even just complimenting somebody. I can't tell you how many times just me saying to somebody like, your hair looks great, just a random person, like those jeans look nice, or that shirt, or whatever it is, just complimenting a person, being helpful, kind, in a generous gesture in that way, how that brightens a day to somebody else. Now, let me tell you, that is magical, because you don't know what's going on in their world. And so many of us are getting hardships from others, or, you know, negativity from others and all that. But if you extend yourself in a kind manner or a fun manner, or bring some happiness and sunshine to a room or something like that, you are transforming that frequency. You are shifting people and their lives. And that's the thing we really need to focus on, because right now the powers that be, they want us to be in negativity and they want us to be in separation, because divide and conquer. And that's what all of the superpowers or warmongers and all these kinds of things, that's what they want. They want us to hate one another. They want us to be separate and all that kind of stuff. But if we really came together and understood that, hey, there's more to this realm than we're acknowledging, but we're willing to look at it and work with it, like we might not exactly be alone. You know, we become more powerful, because they are the few. We are, you know, we are this realm, and we need to be responsible for it and wake up and, you know, because being asleep and forgetting, that is how we come in as participants. We forget. We forget what this system is. We forget truly who we are as divinity. It's just a bunch of forgetfulness. We don't remember. And if we start to wake up and start to remember and take back our power, you know, it's powerful.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that, and I like the way you said it too. It was very explanatory. I actually pick up and do the same things to people. Like I was just in the grocery store the other day, and I read people really well in situations. So just by passing her, I could tell that something was off. Like, and it wasn't like a sixth sense kind of situation or anything like that. I just, the way her body language was, the way her facial expression was resting, and so I could just feel that her vibe was off. And it wasn't that I necessarily liked her hair or anything like that, but I literally was like, "Oh my gosh, your hair is awesome! Like, I really like that. That's very cool." And you can just feel the entire room shift.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I like to do. I'll even, if I didn't even give it a second thought, I'll pick something about that person just to kind of shift them for a second. And then as you walk away, you kind of notice a little bit more of a bounce in their step. They're moving a little quicker. Their facial expression has just changed from the resting position that it was beforehand. I really, really pick up on things like that, and I really enjoy doing it. It's funny to see just what a simple compliment or just a few words will do to somebody's mood instantaneously.
Yeah, and we don't get enough of that. And it's huge. And not only does it brighten them, but it brightens yourself as well. I mean, because we're all dealing with it, right? We're all slinging it out there, and it's not easy. It's just so much harder these days. I don't understand it, and I don't like it, and I don't appreciate it. And so it's just like, it helps you too. It heals your heart to give that, you know, because their smile in return makes you smile, you know, so you both light up the room. And then that kind of, and we don't know what their story was. We don't know what that lady that you were, you know, watching and stuff, like, we don't know what was going on with her and why she was sad or anything like that. But then maybe she could go back into her situation of the day or something like that, and that kind of shifted that whole thing. You know, if you talk about the butterfly effect, what you just did might be so huge, you know, just in the
Absolutely.
whole, you know, spectrum of possibilities. You change that for the positive. And these are the small little free things that we can do, um, to shift these things, to take away the power from the powers that be, you know, because I don't know about you, but I see a lot of demonic energies going around, especially in programming. And so I also want people to be mindful about the programming of being on the networks, on television or radio or any of these kinds of things, or even your phone, because, you know, if you're wearing your phone a lot, that phone is searching for a signal, right? I mean, this isn't like rocket science. It's searching for a signal, and that signal is coming to your body, and your body is a frequency. So how is that phone on your body not shifting your frequency? So people, please put your phone aside and get out into Gaia, get out into the sunshine, get out, hug a tree. I know that sounds so ding dang stupid. I mean, we used to laugh at people kind of in the 70s and 60s about that stuff, but I'm kind of like, it's more intelligent now, you know, than I've ever thought, you know, plants and everything. Get out into nature and see if that doesn't help you with your anxiety and depression and all these kinds of things. Because I'm telling you, these 5G towers, ping, 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 and your phone is searching for it, and you're wearing it voluntarily. I just kind of have a problem with that one. Just kind of have a problem with that. I'm like, I don't have all the answers about it, but I just don't think it's a good thing. You know, I just don't think it's a good thing. So, in essence, again, shifting somebody like that, it could be a very small thing, but like I said, it's like the butterfly effect. We don't know what kind of a ripple effect and wave your small act of kindness to one lady how that might have shifted the whole planet and the world. It doesn't have to take much, but if we keep doing it, well, what harm is there in that, right? And it brightens their day and it brightens your day. If you just want to come down to the simplest form of that, like what's wrong with that? Spreading sunshine,
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I have a few friends that, we always say good morning to someone, and it's like, it's kind of gotten redundant to where people are even now starting to just say morning. And I find I'll be like looking at it and going, what can I say today? And I'll be like, good morning, sunshine, or good morning, beautiful sunshine. And it's like, I just feel like, we have such an interesting language. We can use it. And kind of along the lines of what you're saying is I'll go and I'll just, if somebody does something for me, I'll go, thank you. And that simple thank you, it's like they look at me and they're like, well, you're welcome. It's like, yeah, I mean, how hard is it to say thank you to someone for doing something? And one of the things I like to do now this season on the shows that I host and may try to bring it into this is, as we're at the end of the episode, to go, and I'll just go like this and put my hand on my heart and go, thank you for what you're doing for humanity. Thank you for being you. And it's like, and just to see their faces, and it's like, to me, that's the greatest gift is when you see their face light up and you're like, they get it.
Right.
And maybe, they'll do the quote, pay it forward. And if they don't, that's fine too. But I know I made a difference with 2 words in this moment.
You created a ripple.
Yeah. And you're touching your heart, so it's a heartfelt thing. And I think just that gesture, because hands and what we do with our hands, speaks a lot, especially if you're Italian. But anyway, but people get that and they see it because we're very visual animals. We see things, we pick up on things very visually. Another thing in imparting what I say to people, and I just said it to a lady today. I had to call up the help center or whatever, and I see this, and I like it because it cracks people up. They're like, okay, well, have a good day or whatever, and I always say, well, have a good rest of your life. And I said, unless I see you again or whatever, because they're kind of like, have a good rest of your life. Because it's like, I'm not going to see you again. I mean, the odds are I'm never going to talk to you again. You're on a 1-800 line or whatever. And so I'm not like, oh, have a good day. Make it a great day. I'm like, have a good rest of your life. And I think that kind of shocks people brings them back into the whole thing of like, ooh, I am a human and I'm only here for a finite amount of time. So it's kind of like, try to make our limited amount of time here as beautiful as it can, because I think a lot of us get wrapped into thinking we have more time than we do. And we do have time, but there's only so much time. Our lives are basically about 100 years, and so what are you going to do? You're going to only have so many summers. You're only going to have so many winters or, so many first experiences and last experiences and stuff like that. And so I kind of really like to say to people, have a good rest of your life or a great rest of your life, because I think it kind of gives them the onus of like, oh yeah, my life, and it shocks them a little bit. Like, what am I going to do with my one wild life? Kind of wakes them into like thinking about their responsibility of the finite time that we have here. I hope everybody has a great time and a long time and all these kinds of things. But it's like, we need to think about that. And we need the responsibility of who and how we are while we're here, so it's like, we need to be more responsible. And I think there's a lot of people that karmically, they don't care about it. They think, okay, I'm just going to watch football and eat chicken wings and I'm not going to give a shit about the rest of whatever. But that's a karmic debt. That's a debt to your soul if you legitimately want to turn a blind eye to being a soul, because they're trying to be soulless. They're just trying to move through this 3D realm and be super 3D dense. The D means dense. And it's such an honor to be dense. Other entities are light beings. They can't be here and move things how we do. Like, it's weird, but it's super cool. I mean, like there's, a lot of these light beings, they can't pick up, a mouse and, do this. They're not capable of it. So it really is a high honor as a soul to be incarnated onto this planet and to be dense. It's the one time that being dense is a good thing. Anyway.
Yeah. My grandmother was very much like that. She didn't like to say goodbye whenever she would end a phone conversation. And I asked her when I was young, I was like, why do you always end phone calls and conversations the way you do? She said, because I plan on seeing you again. Goodbye is so final.
Right.
You have so much more of your life to live. So my entire life, and we've actually picked it up, and now my kids even say it. When we get off the phone or something, we'll say bye-bye for now.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
that's one thing we've always carried from my grandmother.
Now, would she have had, like, because I know in like Portuguese, they say until later, até logo, so they don't say goodbye, they say until later, or like aloha. Aloha can mean hello, and aloha can mean goodbye. Ciao, ciao could be hello, ciao could be goodbye. A lot of and I love languages. Oh my God, I love languages. But a lot of languages speak to that. And that's kind of like the bad part of English, is this finality. I mean, English and the United States, because, okay, I preface that being as America, because America is a huge continent. Canadians are Americans, Mexicans are Americans, South Americans are Americans. It's a continent. But our language is harsh, and how we use our language, and it is spelling, and there's a lot of like magic in our words, thought, word, and deed, and manifesting, and all these kinds of things. So yeah, a lot of other languages don't say that final goodbye like that. So I love that. And it's very true. We need to say more like, see you later, or, until later, or whatever it is, however you do that, and not be so final. Because that is kind of a harsh curtain.
Yes, to the point.
Coming down.
To the point.
Yeah. Very much.
But no, she's not like got a different cultural background or anything. I think it was just simply her heart.
Oh, well, she sounds like a really awesome lady.
Yeah, she's amazing.
That's cool.
What's funny a little bit about language is, look at Spanish. You can say to someone, hasta la vista means see you later.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've seen the movie Terminator, it has a whole different context. And so it's like Hollywood has even gotten involved with languaging and totally transformed it. And so it's like you really got to pay attention to what they're saying and how they're saying it, because it no longer means one thing.
Right. Well, spelling is spelling, and I write about language and spelling and stuff in my book too, to explain it to people, in that also, because like, I don't know if like Hebrew is all consonants, like literally when somebody reads the Torah, there's no vowels. So that's why they're like, oh, he read the Torah beautifully, because you can put different vowels in and change the words to make them mean different things. And I do a lot of wordsmithing in my writing. But also then the Greeks, they were all vowels, and so it's kind of like it shapes how a culture is, in through your language and all that. And like I was saying earlier, the Tower of Babel, I do believe that before we were more telepathic, and now we have these spells and spelling and the division and all these languages. And so when I travel, I try to study the language of the country that I'm going to. Gives you an insight, and I try to learn at least, a few sentences, this, that, or more. because it's also welcoming to the other people. I mean, we're hacking at it and it's not that good, but that we tried. Because I think for us as Americans, when somebody is foreign, they come to our country and they don't speak our language. We statesers, I prefer to call us statesers, we get pretty salty about that. So it's kind of like, okay, then if you're salty about that, about other people, then you should be a good steward as a representative of the states. And when you go to another country, maybe you should learn some of their language too, just as in community and all that kind of stuff. But seriously, it is spelling and words and all these kinds of things. It's a lot. And we were talking about names and all these kinds of things, because when you are named, that vibration, that sound, it is a song, Dana, Dana, that's a frequency that's constantly hitting my body. It's a waveform. And what does that do to you? What does that signal? So it gets really deep. And I go into that, like I said, in my book and everything, because I think we need to be mindful of it. Now, let me tell you, I swear I get blue. So does Julie Andrews. But it's all in the intention behind the words of some of the swear words that I say or something like that, because you'll know if I'm being jocular or I'm just being blue to make a certain point, and or if I'm literally meaning it like a laser and I'm sending it to you with an ill intention. That's the difference in our languages, in that I can joke with you and I can say something to you and you would take it as funny, but I could say the same thing to somebody else and they could take it in a harsh way, because, who and how they are and how that language, what that means to them. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of the intention, but there's a lot of spelling. And I want to get back to the languages when I was talking about Hebrew or any of that. There are mystical sects, like groups that would take a letter when the alphabet was first starting and doing all this. And even to this day, what is it? The one they get the red bracelets and whatever. They're the mysticists of the Judaic faith. Anyway, they will meditate and go into a letter. So they will take like the letter A, like the form of the letter A, and they will meditate and go into the letter. So each one of these letters has a different, it's almost a representation like a mirror. So I'm just going to say like this is my mouse pad or whatever, but let's just pretend that this is the letter B and I'm going to stare at it. So it is a letter B, but it is a gateway. So I'm staring at this letter B, but then there's the whole background of what this letter B means. There's another world behind this letter B, and it's magic. Okay. And so there are mystical practices where people stare and meditate on various letters and they go into the lands of those letters. And it's a very powerful thing. You have to be careful with it. But it's kind of like doing mirror work and stuff like that. So when you look at the alphabet and our language and all these kinds of things, we are spellcasting. We are magicians. We are doing those things when we are using our words and writing them, spelling them, saying them, thinking them. That it's deeper than you think, you guys. And that's part of your whole manifestation practice is acknowledging that, learning it, realizing it, and then being able to use that works into clicking part of your manifestation. Thought, word, deed. Thought, word, deed. That's how that goes. And that goes into that whole being back to playful as children. And that also brings in that magical frequency of being a creator,
Yeah. That's all.
Thank you for that. And real quick, as we're running out of time, we're over the hour. Where can people find your book and find your videos?
Thank you. So I am on Facebook. I am Dana Louise, and on I have a website called danalouise.com. And like I said, here's my book, and you can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. You can buy it there. And I have YouTube that's called, this is gonna sound weird. I just always remember it's proper English. Gonna proper English. Gonna sound weird. And yeah, so it's like gonna, whatever. But if you go to my website, then you can kind of find the links to my Facebook and my YouTube and my Twitter and TikTok. I only post things. I'm not on there. I'm not on social media a lot because I'm a boomer. So, and I'm kind of like, I got a life. But anyway, so I'm there. I don't do a lot, but I try to post things. I'll probably be posting more things in this summer. I don't know about you guys, but I think a lot of us who do podcasts and are podcasters, there's been just a lot of energy systems going on in the last couple of months where everybody's kind of feeling a little bit like, we've all been kind of taking a break. I think it's kind of that hibernation thing. So I think things will be blossoming in the spring or something like that. So I do have some YouTubes and stuff like that. You can go and feel free to message me or reach out if you have a question or something like that, because legitimately I do want to connect with people because, like I say, I've experienced a lot of things. I have a lot of, knowledge, but I don't know a lot of things. I know that I don't know. And I really want to connect with people who've had similar experiences or are feeling alone and they're coming out of the cosmic closet. I'm going to tell you, this is kind of a little bit next level, this book. I wrote it originally as first level information. And then everybody kind of laughed at me like, Dana, seriously. And I'm like, oh, crap. Now I got to put more stuff in there, like the real deal. So just, if you read it and if it's a little bit out of your realm, just let it soak in for a minute. You don't have to absorb it. You can just observe it, and maybe come back around to it later on. But this is just my truth and some of my truths and other people's truths or whatever is what I wrote in there. So go to my website. That's where you can find me. And I super appreciate it. And if you do buy my book, please leave me a review because that really sticks it to the man because they legitimately do try to shut me down. They have messed with my book and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into it. But so if you really want to make a difference, leave me a review because they really try to shadow ban me and all that kind of stuff. And it's not just me. It's to a lot of other truth sayers and stuff like that. They really don't want this information getting out. But there are people that do, which is why I think that CIA agent handed me that file on my dad of classified papers and stuff like that, which was amazing. Thank you so much to the Alliance for protecting me and supporting me in that. So, and to all of your viewers and everything like that, thank you for, if you've gone this far and listened to me, blah, 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 I really appreciate it, so thank you so
I feel
much.
like I need to hand you like a Grammy or an Oscar. I love it. Now you've been the guy said it earlier, a wonderful ball of energy. I thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you guys. No, I really mean it. I mean, this is why we're here on this planet is to connect and everything like that. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I used to cry when I would do podcasts, but I'm getting better at not crying because it does touch me. I mean, I legitimately, as a, that older lady, grandma age and stuff like that, I do want the best for this planet. Now I am going to cry, and for the future and for our children. So thank you all so much. And have a great rest of your life.
Bye-bye.
If I don't see you. Yeah, TTFN.
Perfect way to end it. But I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat room. And I do apologize we couldn't get to all the questions, but I'm sure we'll have her on again. And I know I'm going to have her on my show, so shamelessly, I will say if we don't have her here again for a while, you'll probably catch her in mine, so bring your questions over and we'll do our best to get them answered. And thank you to E for coming on. And again, Kel, thank you for this show and all you're doing for us. And you are in our thoughts and prayers. And so with that, I'm going to say good night to everyone, or good afternoon, or wherever you are in the world, whatever time, have a fun day, fun night. So thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.